All right, so a couple of things when I go to sew over here. As a reminder, whenever we start sewing, we want our needle down. Whenever we stop sewing, we want our, thread take-up lever up here in the up position so we don't snap our threads. So I'm gonna wanna sew basically right where I put this pin. So I want the edge of my fabric inside of my presser foot. Because I'm doing a straight stitch, I will back stitch at the beginning and the end. It doesn't matter where you start on your shorts. I would suggest just anywhere that's not on a seam, okay? So as you can see, the edge of my fabric is right here, okay? And my needle's lined up just inside of it. So the edge of the fabric is basically lined up inside of this presser foot. Okay, so I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and the end. I'm going to sew all the way around the top of the waistband. And before I get back to the part I started sewing on, I'm going to stop short about 3 inches. That's where we're going to put our elastic in, and I'm going to back stitch there as well. All right, as you can see, I'm almost back to where I started sewing. So I've gone all the way around. So I'm gonna leave a decent sized opening, okay? I'm gonna back stitch, forward stitch back to the edge of where I started sewing. Make sure that my needle is in the up position and my uptake lever is in the up position before I pull it out. And then this is what it would look like having left a hole. That's where we'll put the elastic in. For your piece of elastic, you can choose to either fit it to yourself or on your patterns. There were specific sizes that you should cut. This pattern that I made is an extra small. So I'm gonna cut 26 inches since that's what the pattern told me to do. All right, in order to insert your piece of elastic into the top of your shorts, you're going to grab a safety pin. So we've been using straight pins. This is different. It's called a safety pin, and it closes. You will thread the safety pin on one end of the elastic, and then you will stick it through and guide it through all the way around the top of your waistband of your shorts. That pin gives you something to like hold on to. Just make sure when you get closer to the edge, all the way around, that this piece doesn't keep going through. Eventually you'll want it just to be bunched up. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. There will come a certain point when you're threading your elastic around where the beginning start point might start sliding through. So just pay attention to that when you get to this point so that this doesn't continue to pull through. After I've pulled my elastic all the way through, so this was the start, the pin is on the end, I'm gonna go back through and I'm just gonna feel and make sure none of my elastic is twisted, okay, which it doesn't feel like it is. I'm gonna pull my elastics even further out, okay, and then I'm gonna take my elastic and I'm going to set one on top of the other so that it lays flat. Okay, again, double checking that none of that is twisted up inside of there. And then I'm gonna pin this together. That's where I'm gonna sew it. If you would like to, you can try it on again. Just make sure that that elastic fits appropriately before you sew it together. When I'm sewing this piece of elastic together, the point of this is to just make sure it never comes undone. So I'm going to make sure everything else is out of the way. I'm only sewing these two pieces of elastic that I have that are flat against each other together. Getting that underneath the presser foot. Okay, making sure I start with my needle down, removing my pin so I don't sew over it. And then I'm just going to go back and forth a few times, forward stitching, back stitching, to really get that sewn correctly. Maybe moving it over to the side. It doesn't need to look pretty. It just needs to stay. Ending with my take up lever in the up position, my needle in the up position, and taking my threads long. Again, if the threads aren't moving easily, this is probably not in the up position, and you'll snap your threads. So now that I have that sewn, I will go ahead and cut my loose threads. After my loose threads are cut, I'm going to make sure that the waistband is pulled up to the top of the casing, and I'm just going to sew this hole shut with my machine. I don't want to, however, sew the elastic into it, so I want to make sure that that's kind of up and out of the way. So when I come in here, starting with your threads below your presser foot, I'm going to start right where I left off, and I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and the end, and just sewing that hole shut. Again, doing a top stitch, so close to the edge or top of that hole is where I'm going. And now you can see that I have closed that up.